I think you have to change with the times. I always joke around and say I don't want to be one of those coaches that talk about, these damn kids today. Like, no, it's exciting. They're amazing.
They've gone through some seriously different things than you and I did growing up. Their life is different and they look at things differently.
Yeah. I think the biggest change probably is their need and want for connection. We talk about, the players today, they were in junior high and grade school during COVID, and we spent a lot of time on connecting with our players because they want that. And I think that's a great thing. And they want to know that we care about them as people off the court. I've been on a lot of recruiting calls in the last 2 days. And, the number one thing that players always ask about is what our culture is like.
This is the Leave It Better podcast, powered by the Side Out Foundation. Here's your host, Hall of Fame coach, Janice Kruger.
Welcome to the Leave It Better podcast. Today's episode, we're joined by one of college volleyball's most accomplished and innovative coaches, Beth Launiere, the head volleyball coach at the University of Utah. Beth's story is nothing short of remarkable. She arrived in Utah in 1990, and I looked at that. I was like, oh my God, 1990. And inherited a program that was needing a little bit of work. I think they had one win the previous season. And 34 years later, you've transformed Utah into a national powerhouse and had tons of success there. So I'm also going to share a few of your highlights, Beth, and they are 673 career victories with a 63% win percentage. You've taken your program to 19 NCAA tournaments, played in 4 Sweet 16 NCAA appearances, had multiple conference championships and Conference Coach of the Year, AVCA West Region Coach of the Year 4 times, and Pac-12 Coach of the Year, Mountain West Coach of the Year 3 times. Beth, your leadership has Utah consistently competing at the highest level. You've had numerous All-Americans there. And I think Danny Drews is one of those that we all can remember hitting with that left arm out of the left side. You're creative. And also you've had quite a stint with USA Volleyball, working as a head and assistant coach, and also with the national team, with the AVCA and growing the sport of volleyball. You were the president of the American Volleyball Coaches Association, and you've served on the board for a long time. Are you still there? Are you still there? No. A long time.
Left that to the younger coaches now.
Yeah. But, all of your efforts and work to help grow the game is truly remarkable. And I think, you have a kind of an innovative approach to coaching. Some of that is a new book that you worked on with Leo Hoff. And I haven't read it yet. I've listened to a lot of things about it, and it needs to be in my inbox for purchase here soon. Let's welcome Beth to the show, and thanks for being on today.
Thank you, Janice. I'm happy to be here and excited to talk to you for a while. We go way back, and so it'll be nice to catch up.
Yeah, we really do. This morning I was like, okay, I got to make sure I do her right here. Beth is a friend. I remember you as a very young coach.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about a few of those things today. And we're going to talk a little bit about the book and the business connection. I've listened to Leo a little bit just to get a grip of this guy. And pretty amazing, right?
Yes.
Tell me, what are you excited about right now? What's going on in your world?
Well, it's June 17th. So what's going on in my world right now is a lot of phone calls and Zooms and FaceTimes to recruits. The last 2 days, it's been pretty nonstop. But it's been really exciting. We, got a great commitment, which was exciting. And that's, what this is all about, is trying to get those players that are a good fit and a good match, and the way we go about recruiting has changed fairly significantly through the years. So right now it's it's pretty radically different, actually. But Janice, one of the things that I feel strongly about is that you need to change with the times. And, Coach Pettit and you are close. And I just read this morning on one of his posts about, the transfer portal and the recruiting process. And, you can't fight what's going on in Division I collegiate athletics. You need to understand it, learn it, and figure out how to exist within it. And it's an exciting time. It's challenging. But I always like a good challenge. So we're figuring it out right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you may wish that you didn't have to go through such a lovely challenge at this time in your career. But you know what? Isn't that what keeps it kind of special and exciting? Right?
Yeah. That's what coaching is. It just presents challenges every day. And that's, it's one of the things that motivates me. I love new challenges, to be honest. And so this is just another one and figuring it out.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I had written down some things, and it was like energy into life. You've built a program known for its energy and intensity and how do you personally challenge your energy into creating the life and program you want both on and off the court? That's a big challenge.
Yeah. I've definitely, the energy is an interesting concept for coaches as they go along in their career. I think, we change as coaches. I'm preaching to the choir. I know you know this. Like we learn so much along the way. I always think that we need to change, but we also need to get more solidified in our beliefs of what we do every day. And I think that's, certainly where I am in my career. I feel really strongly about certain things that I want to see happen, not just with the program, but how we go about the process of developing young people, developing a team for that season. The energy may not be the same. It's just different. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little wiser. I don't know. But I think just getting more authentically set in understanding what this whole thing is about, coaching collegiate athletes and what we want to see out of the experience for them, for myself, for coaching staff, and how we go about it. And it's exciting.
Yeah. And I think that might be the secret sauce to great success, is that tuning in to that the way you have.
Yeah, I think you have to change with the times. I always joke around and say I don't want to be one of those coaches that talk about these damn kids today. Like, no, it's exciting. Yeah. They're amazing, and it's just a new time and it's a new era, and it's exciting. And yeah, these kids are amazing today.
Yeah, what's the most challenging part of working with the youth today? I mean, they've gone through some seriously different things than you and I did growing up. Their life is different, and they look at things differently.
Yeah. I think the biggest change probably is their need and want for connection. We talk about, the players today, they were in junior high and grade school during COVID, and I think everybody, it's well documented, the change that has happened with social media and COVID and it's all very real. So now, now it's our job as coaches when they come to us and to figure out what they're, what they really need. And I think that's a big thing. And, we spend a lot of time on connecting with our players because they want that. And I think that's a great thing. And they want to know that we care about them as people off the court. I've been on a lot of recruiting calls in the last 2 days. And, the number one thing that players always ask about is what our culture is like and how do you get to know the players off the court. And obviously we talk about the training and we talk about the facilities and all of that. And that's all very, really important. But it usually starts off with culture. And, I think in the world and day of the transfer portal, the other thing that I hear a lot from recruits is that they do want to stay for 4 years, that they want to find the right place. And so I do still have a lot of hope for the way collegiate athletics is heading, because I think that, I think players still want to have this experience that they know it can be, and, it can be a transformational experience especially if you can stay at a place for 4 or 5 years. I think that's where the magic happens. I think that's where, if student athletes can stay at one place, and I know there's a lot of reasons why they may move on and transfer, but it's life transforming for them through this experience. And I think they want that. They're still looking for that.
Yeah. For you, collegiate coaching is a lifestyle. You've got the recruiting, you've got the traveling, you've got the hiring of assistants. You're basically you're promoting your program in your community. You're writing books or book. I'm not sure where we are with that.
Yeah, only one.
Yeah. So in that lifestyle, talk about that just a little bit for yourself and maybe even your staff, because you got a great staff, and we may go into that a little more too.
But. Yeah, I do have a great staff. I've had a lot of great staffs. My staff right now, they're so inspiring for me because they're young, they're dynamic, they're passionate, and they keep me on my toes. They keep pushing, and it's great. That's what we want. But yeah, I think you have to buy into a lifestyle to be a Division I college coach, or probably any college coach. I think that's just what it is. I personally, are there challenges to this lifestyle? Of course. Do I, love packing a bag, every week, and not being home sometimes? No, I don't always love that. But the flip side is I can't imagine not being that. I can't imagine being home all the time. You look at friends or family that have normal jobs, and, that looks inviting sometimes. But then I think, wow, I've traveled the country and I've traveled the world because of basketball. Yeah. And I wouldn't change a thing. I feel so blessed and fortunate from this profession and this lifestyle.
Yeah. When I retired from coaching, 2 things I really missed is that my life was planned because you had your season, you had your recruiting, you had this, you did all these things, and the travel. I did miss the travel on someone else's dime for very important reasons to support that university. But that was a big adjustment.
Yeah. I'm not looking forward to the day when I stop accumulating Delta Sky Miles. I've got a few accumulated.
Yeah, I bet. One of the things in your career that I found really wonderful is the number of mentors or coaches you had time with to really grow up and be introduced to college athletics. Can you walk us through? And I can only think of a few here, and one of them, like Jill Hershinger, Mike Hebert.
Yeah, I only worked under 2 head coaches. I was an assistant coach at Ferris State, as you know, Division II, very successful program, working under Jill Hershinger. Went on to have a great career at New Hampshire. And then Mike Hebert at the University of Illinois. And those 2 coaches could not have been more different. I took so much from both of them. Jill hired me, not sure why, right out of college. And, she had a great way with the players. Her relationships with the players were really strong. And she had a great, I think, approach to coaching where, the relationships were important. She created great experience for the student athletes, and just bringing kind of the joy and fun to the sport. Really loved that about Jill and learned a lot from her in that area. Mike was just so different. Mike was an analytical person, philosophical person, and him and I connected on that level. I can get a little philosophical at times, and I was, pretty young coach, but him and I just got into some amazing conversations about life and, politics and everything in between, obviously volleyball as well. So, his analytical mind of the game was something that really left an impact on me. And I would say I lean more towards kind of the relationship side of things, the analytical side and the statistics. He showed me the value of that, and it really rounded out, I think, my coaching style is, the importance of, just all these balls that we have to keep in the air at the same time. So loved working for both of them. They were great mentors for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Two exceptional people. That's for sure.
Yes.
I don't know much about your family, your parents, and I don't know if you have siblings. I heard you mention one time about a family business, and I'm like, okay, so she got some of this as a youngster. Like, what a value that probably was. Maybe you didn't know it at the time, but later you did. So can you share a little, would you mind sharing some of that with us?
Yeah, no. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay.
I played at Aquinas College, small liberal arts NAIA school, and had a great experience. I always talk to athletes about, there's different levels for everybody to play this game. And I feel strongly about that because I had a great experience. I actually come from a, good Irish Catholic family out of Michigan. And I'm the youngest of 7 children.
You are? Okay.
Yeah. So I think that prepared me well for pretty much anything in life when you have to sit at a table as the youngest of 7 and, try to get food. But yeah, my dad owned a tool and die business, which is a thing in Michigan. And it's it's a blue collar industry. Obviously he was the business owner. And so I saw business from just a great perspective, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. And so I was always intrigued and interested. I actually got a degree in business and economics. I thought maybe that's what I would do, and until the coaching bug, got me. But yeah, I'm always intrigued, and I was actually just talking to a recruit yesterday about this that's interested in business and entrepreneurship. And, business is just about people, just like sports is about people, and probably any industry. And that intrigues me. It intrigues me to, figure out how to make people work together. And that's coaching, right?
Right.
To take a group of individuals, train them up on the game, train them up in a lot of different things, but we're just trying to form a team, with leaders and communication and followers and everything in between. So I think the business side intrigues me. And I think there's just a lot of crossover, parallel situations between coaching and business.
Okay. I have to ask, what's the business again?
Tool and die.
What is that?
So they make the dies, the casts for the parts for the auto industry.
Oh, cool. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was listening to a podcast you had done, and I think it was with Terry Leskevich and Don Dunning and Russ Rose, and you were talking about when you got started, and I think you maybe are an example, just a great example of reaching out to people. You're not afraid to ask the questions. You're not afraid to communicate with folks that are, in what most may think a really high position within the sport. Is that because you were the baby of the family, or where did you get like this kind of confidence and just, desire to gain knowledge from wonderful coaches all across the country, not just those guys? I know there were more as well, but
I think that's why I reach out. Is I am always interested in learning. I'm curious. I want to figure out why they were successful. So I watch other coaches. I watch other programs. You mentioned those 3, and I've become, very good friends with them a lot because I would sit down next to them on the recruiting trail.
Yeah.
I laugh, but that's what I would do when I was young. I wanted to go sit by them, and I wanted to pick their brain and talk. And, ultimately you become friends with those people. And that's, gives a lot of depth and quality to your job.
Yeah.
Terry Pettit was somebody that while we didn't talk a lot early on when he was still coaching, I followed the Nebraska volleyball program and wanted to, run my program like that. I thought that we could be a really similar style of program. And since then, he's, certainly become a great mentor for me and have a lot of great conversations. And so, I think that's important for young coaches. I think a lot of young coaches just get into their tasks and the grind. And I do talk to my staff a lot about, hey, talk to this coach while you're out recruiting and see what they're doing about, in this situation. So I think that, probably if I could get one message to young coaches is to, it's not always about the grind. Like, we're always trying to learn. We're always trying to, get better, and take a minute to get off the tasks and let's look at, what are we trying to learn here and what do we got to get better at? So thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think it's part of my personality. I just like to talk to people and pretty social and I'm curious.
Yeah. And I think you also like to have fun. So that's the part I really liked about you.
Mary Wise, one time at a convention, we were out having a nice time, and we were both on the board at the same time. And then I had to present the next morning at 8:00 at the ABCA convention, and she goes, "I don't know how you do that." And I go, "I don't know. Like to have fun and be around people, and then get to work when it's time to get to work." So
yeah, you are very good at that, I have to say. I'm always impressed. This question is maybe in a little bit different space. So you've been, in coaching for 34 years. Is there any regret or one thing you wish you could have done different or handled differently in your coaching career?
You're always going to have some regrets on how you might have handled a certain situation. I mean, the amount of things that we are tasked with just in the course of a day, the amount of decisions that we have to make, the amount of, directions we need to lead people in, the amount of, conversations we have to have with young people is just off the charts in this profession. So to say that I have never had any regrets from how I handled certain situations, wouldn't be true. I don't know that I can, if I think of one, I'll bring it up. But in terms of, just like the path of my career, no, I don't have any regrets. I was very thankful. Number one, building this program was just an amazing experience, and it took a while. And then, you go into a maintaining phase, and what does that look like, and how do you get to that next level? But one of the things that I also loved about this profession is that I was able to branch out. Early on in my career, once I got this program, a little bit settled, I was able to do work with USA Volleyball, and I was able to do ABC stuff, and I was able to go, internationally recruiting and some of that stuff. And so, I think it's just provided me, great experience. So I don't regret a lot. I had other coaching opportunities through the course of my career, and never really wanted to leave Salt Lake City, and have just, I find it kind of funny that I've been here so long, but it's just been different eras. At one point, Utah goes into the Pac-12, and that was a completely different era from where we were. So, no, it's been a great experience. But to say I might have handled everything correctly would not be.
I didn't want to put you totally on the spot, but I had to ask,
Yeah.
So, what drew you to Salt Lake City? But also, did you like skiing?
Yep. I grew up skiing in Michigan, and I love the outdoors. I bike. I used to bike a lot, and then I bought an e-bike, and I haven't been on the other bike since. But and hike, and it's just a great outdoor, state. And also the city's great. It's grown a lot. And, we're going to be hosting the 2034 Olympics. We're excited about Winter Olympics. And so it just kind of gives, it's the best of everything. In my opinion, you kind of can get anything you want for your experience. Honestly, what drew me to Salt Lake City was the job. I was working for Mike Hebert at the time, and Fern Gardner was the women's administrator, and she was on the Division I volleyball committee. Chris Vols.
Okay,
who,
sure.
I got to know when I was at Illinois. She was an athletic director at Minnesota, and so just through connections and networking, and honestly, that's kind of how I've gotten every job, is just through good networking. They were looking for a young coach to build the program, and Mike Hebert told Fern I was ready, and so I don't know that I really had much of a choice.
Into the fire.
Exactly. So yeah, it was a labor. It's all been a labor of love, but it was not easy in the beginning. I was young, and I spent a lot of time just figuring out, just going, what have I done?
Okay.
It was a lot of hard work early on, still is, but very challenging early on.
So let's thank you for sharing all that. It's just, people are curious about everybody's path. But so COVID comes around and you just need something to do. So you decide to be involved with a phenomenal guy named Leo Hoff, and combine business and volleyball coaching and all the things that go along with that into a book. And the book, I'm going to let you talk about it. Let's have the name and a little bit about, gosh, you just needed some things to do during COVID, I think.
Yeah. No, I don't know what I was thinking. The book is called Stop Competing and Start Winning: The Business of Coaching. And the reason it came about, well, first of all, during COVID, Leo asked me if I wanted to write a book. And I said, no, that's the worst idea I've ever heard. But he said, give it 3 weeks, 10 hours a week. And then we never looked back. And it was amazing. But how it came about, Leo and his wife, Harriet, are big donors of ours, friends of the program, longtime season ticket holders. And Leo is a world-renowned business consultant strategist. And so when we moved into the Pac-12, I knew what he did, but I didn't know the extent of what he did. But I asked him to come into my program and really look at it and see where I could make changes and improvements. I think I had a lot of systems in place because I'd been doing it a long time already before we moved into the Pac-12. But I asked him to come in, and my feeling was I needed to unturn every stone if I was going to be able to compete in the Pac-12. I wasn't going to necessarily get, a better player immediately or, whatever, but I had to, I wanted to figure out all these different things. So he came in, and I was pretty blown away by his ability to help me understand, number one, how to, really efficiently run my staff, how to delegate, how to, get the most out of all that. The same with my team. And he just started giving me a lot of tools and concepts. And so then we I implemented a lot of them, and we decided to present at the convention, at the AVCA convention, and some of our concepts and things were well received. And so that's why we decided to write a book. And ever since then, it's done really quite well, I think, for sure in the volleyball community and even in the business world. A lot of business people, we interviewed a lot of high-level business people. I interviewed a lot of high-level coaches. It was nice during COVID. We had the time. I was on the phone for an hour with, Tara Vanderveer and Karch and Terry Pettit. And so it was just a great experience. But the book is a lot about, like I said, how to, a lot of people work hard and compete, but who is really efficient with their time and who gets the most out of the same amount of time that everybody has? And so what are the things that we can do to just get a little bit better than the next team that we're trying to beat? And it's, Division I athletics has a lot to do with organization. It's, and this is something I took from Mike Hebert. He talked about being a head coach of a Division I program is like being a CEO of a small business. And so I'm going to run this business as well as I can as the CEO. And that's what the book's about. It's a lot about, like I said, delegation, how to be efficient with your time. What are the important things that we need to spend our time on? For instance, I'll give you a real quick example. There's a tool called Above the Line and Below the Line. And that was one of the first things Leo did with me. He said, what are the things that only your time and attention, that can merit your time and attention that nobody else in the program can do? And we actually took sticky notes and threw them up on the walls. Like, what are the things that are above the line that only I can do? My assistants can't do that. Mm-hmm. And then and then everything else was going to be below the line. And so for me, it was, player development, team development, and recruiting. And then, of course, a little, compliance and donor relationships, those things, we have to attend to. But the other things were going to go below the line so I could spend my time on these really high level tasks that were going to help us win, that were going to help move the dial. Mm-hmm. And so, you don't delegate just so you can go ski. You delegate so you can spend more time on the things that only you can do in the program that can help your program. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, a lot of tools and concepts like that is what the book is about.
Has your staff really dove into that book and really gotten a little deeper, or is most of that coming from your teaching, or is there some want or need?
Yeah, all my staff members read the book. Mm-hmm. I don't have to tell them; they know they probably should. But I speak in terms of everything that's in the book. It's just how it's just how I see the world anymore, and so I think that it's been really beneficial. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from my assistants that have gone on to be head coaches, and they're I think they're hearing my voice pretty consistently on how to handle things.
Yeah, you have done a great job with your assistants and where they've been able to go after.
It's important.
It's important. Yeah,
it's important, right? That's part of head coach's job, is to help prepare the next generation of coaches. Yeah. Help assistants.
So speaking of the Huffs, Harriet and Leo have made quite a big gift to women's volleyball, basketball, to just women's sport in general. And I found it very interesting that the two of them were competitive athletes, but they're diehard fans of the Utes. Yes. So, something like $6 million. When did that come about in connection with you and this collaboration?
Yeah, so Harriet played basketball at Yale. She works in our anesthesiology department at the university, very accomplished herself. And Leo played volleyball, and they actually met on the volleyball court.
Really?
Yeah, they have a funny story about that. But they're diehard Utah women's sports fans. They're most passionate, I think, about volleyball and women's basketball, but they want to support all women's sports. So they, started looking at, where they were in their life and the money that they had, an ability to donate to the programs. And as a planned gift. And, it was the largest planned gift for any women's athletic department, at the time. And it was really significant. We have had a couple other very significant donations as well. And I would love to talk about those too.
Yeah, go for it.
Part of my book is about fundraising. Mm-hmm. We actually have input from one of our major donors. Her name's Annie Osborne, and she gave a $1 million gift to the volleyball program as an endowment to the volleyball program. And, that's amazing. And again, how does that come about? It comes about through relationships. It comes about through networking. Annie is a neighbor of Leo and Harriet, started coming to our matches. I didn't know who she was. I just thought she was a very nice person, started talking to her, was appreciative that she came to our matches. And it turns out she is an extremely accomplished, just retired neuroradiologist.
Okay.
Yeah. Both of their relationship with the program has had a huge impact on our program. And Annie also made another really big donation to women's athletics. Yeah, they're amazing people. Mm-hmm. The thing about fundraising that I've learned is that you have to make the ask. Mm-hmm. I think young coaches are afraid to ask. And the thing that Annie Osborne told me was, don't deny them the chance to give to your program. That really stuck out to me, that, there's a lot of people that want to be associated with your program, that want to help build it and be a part of it. Now, you obviously don't want people that, want to get too involved and have too much say and that way. But for the most part, they're very passionate. Fans are very passionate. And there's a lot of people that would love to donate, and you have to make the ask, but you got to build those relationships first.
Yeah. I had something written down here, a quote: creating powerful networks of people around common causes can unleash great change. So sounds like
that's exactly
that's what you're doing.
About.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
The culture part of a program, the players, the staff, the connections, and the buy-in, and then the leadership. It is the best thing when you get that going for yourself and you have excellent connections with players, and they take hold and feel like they own it too,
Yeah. I think it's something you learn as coaches, and the sooner you can learn that it's about relationships, and that's really where things are. The foundation of any program, I think, is the relationships. But the culture part of programs is something that really has to be worked on. Mm-hmm. It doesn't just happen, it's not just landing in a jar. It is something that we work on pretty relentlessly. And then players, we talk about in the recruiting process, and then players buy into it. And then when they get here, that's when the work starts, right? So we do a lot of things, right? We're trying to create opportunities to connect at the end of the day, because otherwise we could all just be in our own places and, text each other. But we do things like, every Tuesday we have lunches in the coaches conference room, this room right here. And the only rule is we can't talk about volleyball. And it's great. We've been doing that for a couple of years now, and players just come in. Once in a while they can't, they're busy, but for the most part we just hang out and we just talk, and conversations go all over the place, and that's a lot of fun. We do things like I have my team over for a barbecue often, but we'll also break the team up in small little groups and rotate them amongst all the coaches. So we're being able to have players over for like a team dinner of just 6 players and a coach, and get a little more quality conversation time. I take players out for coffee all the time now. I say, hey, let's meet at Starbucks, and we head out and chat for 30 minutes to an hour, and every week I'm going out for coffee with somebody. But also on top of that, I think probably one of the most powerful things that I've done in my coaching in the last 10 years or so is get into these behavioral surveys where we are, trying to understand people's authentic self. So we do a lot of work with the DISC profile system, where you take a little survey and you come out as, you don't get put into one letter box, but you might be high as a D, which is direct. You might be high as a influencer. S's are supportive, and C's are conscientious and analytical. We have players take it, staff take it. And that's been the best thing for me to help understand players. How can I meet them where they are? What is their preferred behavioral style? What's their preferred communication style? What motivates them? And when I started understanding that, it was very eye-opening for me, and really, really helped me with my relationships with my players, because they started understanding how much I cared about them, that I was going to, meet them where they are. But we educate them about each other. We educate them about our profiles as a staff. And I have one example. I think it's pretty powerful. Early on when we started working with DISC, I had a player on my team that was an engineer. So she was a high C, conscientious, analytical. I'm more of an I, interpersonal, very relationship-based. I's and S's are C's, and D's and S's are task-based. So you have to understand. And I had a good relationship with my player that was a C off the court, but on the court we had tension, because I would just throw out some information and think we're good. And what I realized is she needed time to analyze that information and process. And so what I started doing with her is, instead of trying to talk to her during live drills or sixes, I would take her off to another court and I would say, hey, let's work on this transition footwork. And we would do that for a few minutes, and then I'd leave her over there and she would kind of process through some stuff. And then she'd come back into the sixes court and happy as can be, because number one, she got a chance to work on it how she needed to work on it. But number two, she also then realized that I cared enough to understand her. And our relationship really changed and developed after that. So when you talk about culture, it takes work, and it's it's a fun part of what we do, but it doesn't happen automatically.
That's a great story, Beth.
It was very powerful for me as a coach.
If you don't mind, I would like to ask you, you've made this public about Crohn's disease. Would you be okay to talk about that a little bit? Because, we're in the business of helping those that are living volleyball. We're trying to unite that group into helping those with metastatic breast cancer find solutions. When you've gone through something, it truly gives you a different perspective. Sometimes that can be used to help other people.
I was in the hospital having part of my colon removed when Lee Feinswag happened to text me and said, "What are you up to?" And I said, "Well, I'm in the hospital." And he asked if I would be interested in talking about it. So he did an article, and I.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I thought when he asked me that, some people were like, "Well, aren't you worried about that? Like, are recruits going to think you're, sick or something?" It never really crossed my mind, to be honest with you, because I'm still able to do my job. But I thought if I could help, some young coaches or any other people, that would be a good thing. So I was diagnosed with Crohn's when I was a junior in high school. I was sick a lot. I was, I didn't understand it, didn't know it. They didn't know a lot about it back then. It was very rare. It's not so rare anymore. It's an autoimmune disease, very, much more common, unfortunately. But Janice, in the early years, I didn't take care of myself as I should have. And, I can remember a lot of times where I was laying on the gym floor and I was sick, and I was, I had to get home because I was sick and I didn't feel well at all, and had to miss, some things once in a while. And I finally, started realizing that I needed to, if I was going to stay in this profession, I needed to take care of myself better. And so for me, it really was about how do I find some balance in this profession, and, how can I stay healthy? So I started figuring out, that working out was really important for me, and doing yoga, or whatever it was that was going to get me away and physically and mentally be good for me. And so I started, I think trying to find that balance, and that helped. Then I finally had to break down and go, okay, well, I probably need a little more help with this. And now I get infusions every 8 weeks. And that's really stabilized my condition. The head of that department at the University Hospital read my article. And so he reached out to me and said, I can help you. And so I've been under the care of a great doctor for a number of years now. And I just recommend to young coaches, that they have to take care of themselves if they're going to be able to give to other people. I see a lot of young coaches physically, grinding themselves, into whatever. I see them looking unhealthy, and so, I just, if I could preach that to young coaches, I would, as much as possible. But usually they have to figure it out themselves a little bit. But yeah, we have to take care of ourselves. But I think the message is that you certainly can be successful with challenges in your life, and that's just my challenge. And certainly having metastatic breast cancer is a whole nother level, and everybody has them. We talk to our players all the time, like, how are we going to respond to challenges? Like, that's what we teach every single day. And so for me, I see it a little bit as being a role model of, yes, I have this challenge, but I deal with it, and we're still moving forward. So yeah, it's there's a lot in this profession that's not easy, and having those kind of challenges don't help, but you can still do it. Yeah.
Got to love thyself. Take good care of yourself. Yeah. I think I remember saying things like that to you when you were really young.
Probably, yeah. We're young coaches are crazy and think they're. But I've learned a little bit about slowing down and.
Yeah. Well, Beth, you're just a gem. And I thank you for today and speaking on your career and just many different things that have happened in your life. I wish you the best. I don't know what your outlook here is for, this season, what you're working on and doing all that stuff right now. I hope all things go very well for you. Yeah, you're a keeper.
Oh, thank you, Janice. I appreciate it. And I appreciate this podcast and everything that you've done with the foundation and, Leave It Better podcast. I couldn't think of a better name.
Yeah.
That is our job. We're trying to always leave things better than we had. But I appreciate what you've done and you've done since coaching. It's really been amazing. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Beth.
Thank you for listening. Please share your feedback with us at side-out.org.